Hey, you're joining me at our new house, Possum Orchards, where I'm going to be talking about a lot of the plants that we've put in the ground, most of which are native plants, and I'm trying something new here, trying to incorporate certain native plants into the ornamental landscape so that when folks pass by the house, it looks very nice and aesthetically pleasing, and yet the things that we are growing are native plants which occur naturally in our landscape and are beneficial for our pollinators, insects mainly, and also beneficial for birds who eat the seeds and for various other kinds of wildlife as well. So this is kind of my big project at the moment, and I've planted a good deal of things not only here at the front steps but also all throughout the yard, and we'll be also transplanting a lot of things at the old house. So these plants that I'm going to be talking about were obtained mostly from the Wilderness Center's Native Plants Greenhouse, and the ones that I've had at the old house, and there will be more of those to come as I go over and dig them up, those came originally from Beach Creek Botanical Gardens, and so I owe those places a debt of gratitude for spreading the word about native plants, which are quite showy and very hardy, and also make a great addition to any landscape. So we'll see how this goes. This is my first video, just kind of showing what I planted. It's going to be a long video. It's over a half an hour in length, so if that is kind of ridiculously long for you, you do not have to actually watch it. It's more for my own records than anything else, but I thought that you never know. Sometimes people get a lot out of things when you don't expect it. So if that's the case, then I hope you enjoy seeing all of our native plants that we have here, and later on, you'll be able to see them as they grow through the months as well.
Thanks
I
for
did
watching.
want to show the end of our street here. This to the left is the neighbor I've mentioned who's come over a couple of times. So that's where her house is located, and this line of Norway spruce here is the property line. We've got another house over there, and the end of our street is a little cul-de-sac. So here's our other neighbor on this side, and then us. And we have just under an acre, so it's not huge, but we have tried to do a lot and will hopefully be doing a lot more to kind of rewild our little land while still keeping it aesthetically pleasing for the human folks who inhabit the area. So I'm going to show you some of what we've been up to. So today is May 5th, and it is a drizzly day, very cool and wet. And that's pretty much the kind of day we've been having lately. So even though it's not the brightest day out, the plants and grass and everything are looking this bright, vivid green. Now, most of the things that I have planted here are native plants. If you've never heard that term before, don't really know what it means, then basically they are the plants that are, of course, native to the region where I live, which is the state of Ohio in the Midwestern US. So I've got woodland plants and prairie plants, which are the natural plants that would occur in Ohio's landscape before people came and started to plant all of the exotic ornamentals. Now, of course, we do still have some exotic ornamentals here because the previous owners of the house were apparently really into landscaping, and they did a lot of plantings of some things that are pretty beautiful, and not all of them are native. But here, at the base of this tree, which this tree is just finished flowering, and folks who I talked with about it, they mostly think that it's some kind of a ornamental cherry, but some folks thought perhaps ornamental apple. We'll have to see. But at the base of said tree, I've planted some woodland wildflowers, just to be the first thing that folks see as they drive in. So we've got some trilliums and a mayapple there behind, and we've got this fern and sweet woodruff came in a clump, so their roots are kind of entwined together, and so is that lungwort over there. I brought them over from the old house, so we've got them here as well. And these Solomon seals are a beautiful native plant here with these really neat looking little flowers on the underside. And these here are called wild ginger. And they do have a flower, but their flower is a tiny little red one at the base. And it's at the base because the insects that pollinate it are ones that walk. So beetles and ants, I've heard, primarily. But here's its little flower right here. So that is the flower of the wild ginger. I'm hoping these are going to get established and really take off in this area. This is another sweet woodruff, not a native, but definitely a good ground cover type of plant. And here are the May apples. They are about to flower, or this one is, right there. So, among our trees up front here, we do have a red maple over here, which is a native species. And we've got these various bushes. These folks were very into planting their ornamental shrubs. I don't know what kinds they all are. I put a Solomon seal here that is probably not going to come up again this year because it was eaten by the deer, but for future it is establishing itself, hopefully. And we've got some more Solomon seals right here. And a little bellwort, which is just starting to flower. Now, most of these spring plants, their flowering season is now, and in fact it is largely ending for ones like Trillium. That's just how it is in the woodland. Things flower early before all the trees are leafed out and block them from the sun. Whereas our prairie plants tend to flower later in the summer toward fall, but I've tried to establish kind of a good array of flowering times. So here at the beginning of our walkway, I've got a couple of plants that I transplanted from our old place. This primrose, not a native, but has been with me for a very long time. And one of Chris's daylilies. Then, in and among the various shrubs that were already here, I planted a bunch of natives. So I tried to pick ones that are ornamental, like these harebells and these spiderworts, coneflower, and various things that aren't going to get huge and that will have a lot of flowers, so that people won't wonder why on earth they are planted here. Also some really nice ones like bergamot that will produce flowers on into the season, and my favorite back there, New England aster, alongside a rather demure plant that was here originally from the previous owners. Now, all of these native plants that you see here that look tiny, they will get large, and most of our native plants, especially the prairie plants, get pretty darn large, but I've specifically picked out ones like this obedient plant here and like this great blue lobelia that are not tremendously sized, so just a couple feet in height. And toward the back I've got some that might get a little bit bigger, but I tried to stick to varieties that will be, you know, more appropriate for a walkway garden. So even though I have a blazing star here, this is a variety that is short. And I've got a coneflower here. So again, not going to be huge, going to be mostly emphasis on the blossoms. And I've got some milkweeds toward the back because those, of course, will probably get about maybe 3 feet tall. And then here I've got some Jacob's ladder and another lungwort taken from our old house. And let's see, still have lots of room for more things, but here is a spiderwort. Those have really nice flowers. Those are an earlier summer flower than a lot of these are, so I tried to really mix up the times that they're going to be blooming. So let me come back over this way, for I missed some friends. So Chris is really partial to nasturtiums, and they'll spread nicely and have a lot of beautiful flowers throughout the warm season. Another spiderwort, and another coneflower. This one came from our old garden. So did this daylily. So these will give us some nice color a little bit earlier in the year than some of these. And then over here, some of these plants here, I don't know what they are. They were planted by the original owners, and I am not good with ornamentals. So when it flowers, hopefully I'll be able to tell what it is, or get someone else to tell me. But I've planted a variety of natives here behind them. So we've got some brown-eyed Susans. Over here we have a Heliopsis. And once again, these guys are going to get maybe about 3 feet tall. First year, they usually don't get, to their full size. Of course, each year they get bigger, but they should be filling out this space hopefully very nicely. So another coneflower, another lobelia. There's our little gazing ball. And then this is the front steps, so I've put more effort into this. I figured I could put plants here that are going to get bigger than the ones back there, because this is when you walk up to the house. So if there's kind of a wall of little prairie plants here, that will look really nice. So all these are going to flower at different times. Got a false indigo, another kind of coneflower. This is a yellow coneflower. We've got some bergamot or bee balm, a royal catchfly. Here's a swamp milkweed, a New England aster, brown-eyed Susan, another coneflower. This one's orange. And we've got a couple kinds of milkweed. Over here we have the common and a lance leaf coreopsis. So this will be just full of flowers, and of course these plants will be, I'm hoping at least, around waist high, I would guess, by the summertime. Try to spread out again the flowering times so that we got something in bloom throughout much of the summer and into the fall. These are pretty much the same plants except for this dogtooth daisy. I've only got one of those, and another one of these heliopsis that I had over on the other side. And I did try to also grow some milkweed from seed. I've been watering this spot because you see that the rainfall doesn't actually reach it, but they haven't come up yet. So then I went and just bought milkweed plants in case, and I still have a bunch of plants to dig up at the old house. When I do, then I will be putting them in other spots. Now, we're moving into what I call the woodland garden. Over here on this side of the house, the previous owners planted a lot of columbine, which is cool because it is a native plant and it flowers earlier than a lot of the other stuff that we've got here. So that's always good. This tree here, this weeping tree, I'm not sure exactly what kind it is, and I think maybe it's a weeping cherry. It looked like one to me, but once again, ornamentals are not really my thing, and I'm weaker on tree ID than I would like to be, actually. So over here I planted a couple of woodland plants. So this is called a heart-leaved blue wood aster, and this is a variant of the wild geranium. So we can expect these guys to flower earlier in the year than our prairie plants back there. These guys, by late spring, we should have them. This is my first year having those particular plants. I see wild geranium a lot in the wild, but I have never seen before the heart-leaved blue wood aster, so I look forward to it. So this is another little nook here, shaded by this weeping tree. So I thought, well, I will make this my woodland garden. You may wonder why I would do such a thing when I have actual woods back there. But the deer came along and ate our Solomon seal, and we don't really own much into the woods. I will show you just a few feet. And I did plant some things there, but I figured I would do more woodland stuff up here, where it will be more of a display woodland garden deal. But I'll show you what I put back there as well. And don't worry, the deer have plenty to eat. So once more, we have some Solomon seal. These came from my old house, so that's why there's a clump of woodruff there. And some May-apples. These guys have been a bit flattened out by the rain, but of course they are wild blue phlox, which is a beautiful spring flowering woodland plant that is native. And here are a couple of trilliums. This one here is still in bloom. For the most part, trilliums are done for the year, unfortunately, but next year I'm sure that they will have even spread and we'll have more to see. So some more wild ginger, some of the columbine that was already here. Excited about that. This poor trillium has lost a leaf. This one came from our old garden. And some more Solomon seal and another May-apple. And then this ornamental, which I'm not sure what it is because, well, you know me and ornamentals. I'm thinking maybe an azalea, but it's started really coming into bloom. It's very pretty. And over here we've got, once again, flattened by rain, but this one I kind of had to prop it up a little bit with these sticks anyway. But of course that is another wild blue phlox. This is a swamp rose mallow. It'll get pretty big. And I stuck it over here because it's kind of a wet zone with the hose. I figured it would appreciate that. Another of these wood asters. And then I brought over our Virginia bluebell from our old house, and it did not transplant very well, but we also had some for sale at work, and so that little smaller leaf lying flat is that. So they may have just died back already for the year, which they tend to do. We will see if they do anything more for us. Now, I haven't put anything over here yet. I'm sure that I will, it just hasn't happened. So it's pretty empty. And over here is where, this is a big silver maple. Pretty beautiful tree. Really hard to dig over here because it has roots everywhere. So I'm trying to establish some little prairie patches around the fence so that this fence doesn't look so stark and white, because right now it kind of looks like a cult compound, like we moved in and we put this giant fence. So I'm thinking, like, you know, to soften it up a bit with some flowers. So this is kind of a work in progress, but I'm going to put a bunch of prairie plants here from seed that we collected from our plants last year at our old house, and previous years actually. We have a huge amount of seed. And over here I've got some blueberry bushes that hopefully will grow for us. We really want to do a lot with fruit. These are tiny little bushes, barely more than little sticks. So hoping that they will do well. It would actually be hard to dig big bushes into the ground here because, like I said, those roots of that silver maple are all over the place. So here's the view of this side, and then I will take us to the backyard. Here we are in the backyard, and you can just see the neighbor's house on our left side over our 6-foot privacy fence. And over here, this is the, now pardon the mess, it's messy. This is the back deck. This pool that you see here is for Tolba, a turtle, but it keeps raining so much, and now it's like got, I don't know, 6 inches or more of water in it. I keep draining it out, so he hasn't been able to come out in a while, but it's been so wet anyway and dreary that he wouldn't really like it. So over here I thought, well, I'll put some natives in, and these guys are prairie plants that will get reasonably large. So I'm not worried about anything being tall here and disturbing the neighbors, because they got a 6-foot fence to prevent them from seeing if I have grown, you know, goldenrod and such, which I have. Only one. But I've got other goldenrod at the old house. So I'm thinking this empty area here, I could certainly put a lot more here. But for right now, here is what I have planted. So we have got a cup plant here. These guys get really large, and their leaves make a natural water dish for birds and insects to drink out of, and they're just really nice. They're so showy and prominent. So can freely put as much bergamot and anise hyssop as I want back here. Of course, anise hyssop is nicely ornamental, so I even put some over by the fence over by these neighbors. I didn't show you that part, but I figured that they are ornamental enough people won't be disturbed by them. Here we've got a blazing star, a couple more kinds of coneflowers, another nice big cup plant, another blazing star, a New England aster. Here's one variety of milkweed called a Sullivan's milkweed. I've never grown that. And here's a nice Ohio goldenrod front and center, and a common milkweed. And then over here on this side, so far, I have just put a cup plant and a compass plant. So really tall, showy, big yellow flowers. That type of deal. So over here, most of these things were already here when we moved in, so I don't know what they are, except for the holly. I know what they are, and they are right now flowering. And yeah, they all produced berries this winter as well, which is cool. So here are some plants from the old house that I had growing in a container. And I had some others in the front garden too I didn't mention. I don't really know what they are. This guy should be, by the smell, anise hyssop. The other thing it looks like is the bergamot or bee balm, but I think it's anise hyssop. And the more spindly guy, I'm not sure yet, but we will find out. It's definitely something I meant to plant. It looks familiar. And let's see. Over here by the bird feeding station, of course, I didn't plant anything because sunflower seeds will usually inhibit plant growth, but some things have come up anyway. that were here before us. So these little violas here, they were here before us. Really like them though. They are quite beautiful, and it's good to have things at different times of the year flowering. So over here I tried to keep with that theme, mixing up stuff that's going to bloom later in the season and earlier. So I've got a phlox right over here, a wild blue phlox, and I have another there that hasn't done anything yet. It just came from a greenhouse. And let's see, we have another wild geranium, so kind of a late spring, well, mid to late spring plant. Some fire pinks here and there, and a swamp milkweed, a yellow coneflower. Here's another kind of coneflower that's like different colors. Oh, it's kind of good to have stuff that is different and unique. And back there, there is a New England aster kind of nestled away, because those get fairly big. I mean, they could easily be like 5 feet or more, but I really love them. And in the fall, beautifully flowery. So this is kind of like a little flower bed here by the bird bath, and that table there is where I eat lunch and such a lot when it's not so wet and cold. And these are butterfly bushes that obviously I didn't know if I should trim them back or do anything. I've never had them before, but can see that they are growing leaves on the branches, so I'm glad I didn't hack them back. But it also looks like maybe some new growth from the same down here in the middle. And these flowers, though, these were last year, so I should probably just trim those off, because obviously they are spent. And let's see, I don't think I put anything over here. All these things are previous owners. So we've got a bunch of lily of the valley. I don't like that they're back here though, because I tromp on them when I go to plug in the hose. And they've got a lot of these very ornamental Japanese maples, so not native, but really pretty. And somebody that is native, and I don't know if it's intentionally here or not, but I love it, this tulip tree right here. So they have really pretty flowers in the mid to late spring. And this one is very close, but not too close to the house. And you can see our dogwood tree is still in bloom. This has bloomed for most of the spring. And the apple trees are done already. Oop, it got very shady all of a sudden. There they are. So they are finished flowering. Hopefully they flowered for long enough to give us a nice crop of apples. We did see when we were looking at this house last year, the apple trees are extremely productive. There are 4 of them. They should make lots of apples. And over here is another of those prairie patches. And on either side I have got a prairie dock, marked by these flags so that I don't accidentally mow them down. And these get really big, and their flower is on a stalk that goes up super high, so perhaps even in the first year, maybe going over top of the fence. But here I figure I can put a lot of taller prairie plants. They're back considerably from the road where people, you know, would be driving or walking and then think that I have planted weird things, just in case that's an issue for anybody. So I figure I can kind of do more my own thing in this zone. And let's see, I'm gonna take you guys over here to the edge of the woods. There's a few things over there to see. Oh, and over here, I should mention them, even though this is a flower beds tour. These are our new cherry trees. So we have 2 of them. There's one, and here is the other. And they're about as tall as me, so they're a little bit over 5 feet now. They have definitely grown since we planted them a few weeks ago. And I love walking through this. It's just so nice. Actually, on nice days, it's a really great place to kind of lay and just listen to the birds. All right, I'm gonna stop this now and I'll walk over there and start up again. You can see how wet it is by my shoes. This is the far corner here of the fence, and it's our wettest area. So I did plant a couple of marsh marigolds. Now, these guys flower in the spring, so this year we won't be expecting that, but I did put them here so that they can establish themselves and give us some beautiful flowers next year. Now this is the furthest corner of the fenced portion of the yard, and I thought that this area over here was part of our yard, but now I'm not totally sure. When the neighbor said that she planted the trees, I guess that means that that our line goes up to the trees. But back here, you can get a glimpse of the stream, which unfortunately has been, the banks have been covered with stone, so that it's not as good for wildlife as the other side, where that other house is, where it's more of a natural bank. There were frogs over there, but I don't know about on our side. So if I was to put a little pond, like a little frog pond, the lowest lying area naturally is here. So perhaps that is where it would be. I do want to do that, but I don't think it'll be happening this year. So over here, I'll show what I have put in the woods. And then, oh, and here's somebody that's at the edge of the woods. A woodland sunflower. I've actually got 3 of these. They get really tall and they kind of have a sprawling quality. So I figured leaning up against a fence would be good. Alright, stuff back here does need a lot of work, as far as I know that there's a lot of garlic mustard. So don't judge me, I have not pulled any of it yet. I mean to make a great big salad of them, since they're not only invasive, but delicious. But here's a mayapple that I planted out here, and some wild ginger that came from our garden at our old house. And then back here is going to be our little circle. And we haven't really done anything with it yet. I put, on every corner, I put something growing. From cutleaf toothwort, to another mayapple, to a bloodroot right here. But all these guys, I don't really know how much growth that they will have. They'll probably grow as far as foliage, but their flowering season has come to an end. Oh look, looks like someone has tunneled next to this wild ginger. And I had Solomon seals back here. There's still one, but you can probably tell. Here, I'll move back this way. But this is a deer path. And so it was along the way. They came along and they actually ate one. Supposedly they don't like to eat them, but hey, I guess they didn't get the memo. But I still have one more kind of hanging on there, so I figured I'd leave it. So this, of course, is the feeding station, and it looks like I fed them really late last night. It looks like they didn't come to get the food, and now it's covered in water. But anyway, I'll take you guys back up. Here's the camera where I photographed them eating. And then we'll go back out. I should say we also have other invasives, like honeysuckle, which I'm sure was planted here on purpose because it does produce beautiful flowers, and pollinators do enjoy them. So since this is not a very natural woodlot anyway, far from it, I guess I'll probably leave them. I mean, this is a bald cypress tree, and all throughout there are just a very eclectic mix of things that were planted probably by the previous owners of this place, but could have also spread from the other properties, as well as some maples and such. But not really any oaks, except for these chestnut oaks, which I had to look up. They are native to Ohio, but I don't think they're really all that common, because I had never even heard of them before. Not that I'm such an expert botanist or anything. But here is our shed. Looks like our earth flag is tangled up a bit. And I've got some other stuff growing over here. Here's a meadow rue. Another nice native, and some woodland sunflowers around it. So let's see, this must be one here. Again, they're super tiny for right now, but that will change. And let's see, I won't walk around this way because Wunyo has dug a great big hole. This is another mystery plant for us. Is it a rhubarb? Who knows? I don't know. That's what people keep thinking when they come here. And here's another tulip tree just hanging out in the middle of the yard, which is cool. And these little sticks with flags by them, those are various types of berries. So raspberries and blackberries. I also planted some hardy kiwis. So no, not native, but they will give us some delicious fruit, hopefully. Although they haven't really done much yet in the way of growing, so I don't really know what they're up to. But sadly, I've had to block out this whole nice area of the woodlot because of the dog fence, which was necessary to put up. But it does look like pretty beautiful back here, and I do wish we had now an entrance to get right over here so that I wouldn't have to go all the way around the shed. But nothing here was planted by us, so we've got all kinds of things, from the infamous garlic mustard, here it is by the way, that has spread in, highly invasive, which I mean to go and pull up, to all these lovely ferns. And there are many clumps of daffodils all throughout here that are of course done flowering for the year. And this is a wood pile that was here, but I contributed to it to make it bigger, to kind of give a good brush pile for wildlife. And one of our bird boxes, this one here, was originally inhabited by chickadees, but as a friend warned me about, some wrens did come and evict them. So I think we have wrens now. It's been a while since I have seen them. And let's see, I'll just come on up this way and do sort of a long view. Again, it is kind of a shame, you know, to have fenced this zone off, but it's really great for our dogs to have this much space to kind of do their thing. Wunyo definitely appreciates it. Now I'm up here at the other far corner and wanted to show our little peach tree and a great big lilac bush, which was flowering. Can't believe that's all it had. But maybe, because don't see too much going on now. Yeah, it's spent. Look at that. Usually these guys bloom in abundance around my birthday. It's not my birthday yet, but I guess they did not realize that. So was thinking about doing some more native plants along this portion of the wall. Haven't done anything yet, as you can see. And the only other thing I wanted to show you is this one really pretty tree over here. So this tree is a redbud, and it just finished flowering as well. It had a profusion of really, I would say, light purple to pink blossoms. And it is one of our native trees, which is cool. So there are several others throughout this woodlot as well, which is awesome. And that tree back there, that is a great big sugar maple. So we do have some really nice trees here, which is great. All right, well that is the end of my very long garden walk. And I will definitely be planting more edible things later, but not just yet. This is all we've got so far.